Hello, my name is Trevor Alderson, and today we're going to get up and go outside. That's right, the speech takes place outside, so get up! No, I'm just kidding, we're not going outside because there's no cameras out there and we could not record this. But, why would we want to go outside? The reason is so that I can smoke one of these. Cigarettes, or tobacco in general. I've been a smoker for a few years, and my history with smoking goes back a long time before that. We'll get to me in a minute. What I really want to talk about today is, get ready for the thesis, why smoking is a socially acceptable way to kill yourself. And we're going to look at this through two lenses. First, we're going to talk about the culture of smoking, how it's evolved over time. And second, we'll talk about my personal experience with it. So first, smoking culture has evolved as awareness of health risks increases. Back in the day, smoking was pretty ubiquitous in the early half of the century, and then as the 50s and 60s research starts coming out, people are dying of lung cancer, and we learn how dangerous it is. So this split it into two markets. We have the luxury market, where there's the elite, and these people mostly buy cigars, they buy pipes, some of them buy more luxury cigarettes. And these are the kinds of things that require a palate. You have to be educated about cigars to really enjoy them. You have to be educated about pipes to really get the most out of it. And the mistake that they're making is they think that this is safe or safer. What they don't know is that a cigar smoker who smokes as often as a cigarette smoker is 100 times more likely to develop mouth or throat cancer than a cigarette smoker is to develop lung cancer. Second, there's a youth culture around cigarettes now. Once we realized how dangerous it is, it became a symbol of rebellion, of creativity. You get all of these rock stars and models and DJs, taking pictures, being on stage with cigarettes in their hand, always smoking, and the message is that this is dangerous. They know it's going to kill them and they don't give a shit, and that's why it sends the message that they want. So now we have an understanding of where smoking is today. Let's move on and talk about my experience with it. Growing up, every weekend I went to my grandparents' house, and the walls were painted white, but I never actually saw them that way. Ever since I was there, they had turned yellow from 50 years of smoking. And my grandmother was a lady who, she would have a lit cigarette in every room. She had all these ashtrays, just lit cigarettes hanging around. And she would walk between them and pick one up and smoke it. And they both quit before the end, but ultimately it killed them. My grandfather died of emphysema, my grandmother of lung cancer. And tobacco was everywhere for them. It was such a part of their history and their culture and their being, and it represented them when I went over there. So I'll come back to this in a minute. Remember that my grandparents were smokers, but in high school I went to an arts high school, and I had all these hipstery friends, and I gravitated towards that crowd. I really liked, the poets and the visual artists and the dancers, and what I noticed is that the vast majority of them smoked. Almost all of my friends were smokers, and I didn't actually try it until college when one of my graduate friends offered me a cigar, but it was almost necessary to seem cool, I was on the George Mason forensics team for a little while, and almost everybody in speech ends up smoking. And on top of that, my grandparents were both smokers, and I never associated cigarettes with their deaths. At least not on an emotional level. I did on an intellectual level. I certainly understood that that's what killed them. But when I started smoking and I noticed that my jacket smelled like tobacco, I felt good. I remembered their living room and watching cartoons on Saturdays, which is what I did there. And I remembered giving my grandma a hug and what that smelled like. I'm sure most of you know that smell is the sense most associated with memory, and so since I've been a smoker, my clothes smell like tobacco. I feel realized. I feel self-validated. And I really appreciate these things, even though I know in the back of my head, every time I smoke one, that I'm killing myself. So, today, we talked about why smoking is a socially acceptable way to kill yourself. We understood the culture of smoking, where it has come from and where it is today, and we've understood my personal experience, one bit of anecdotal evidence for this, and hopefully we're leaving with a sense of why people would make this choice, why someone would choose an activity they know will kill them. And I think it's because the things that kill us make us feel alive. Thank you. That is my speech.